I had a brother and sister.
Mm.
My sister was 4 years older than me.
Yes.
My brother 2 years older than me. And they couldn't really keep my sister at school in India beyond the age of 11.
Yes.
So we all three came home,
Mm-hmm.
and we stayed with uncles and aunts and friends and so on.
Yeah.
Endless people.
Yeah.
We were wonderfully looked after, actually. I mean, I was dreadfully homesick to begin with.
Mm.
I can picture myself standing in the playground of the Dragon School in tears.
Oh, yeah. Just wishing you were back in India.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then writing at the end of my time, these have been the 6 happiest years of my life.
Really?
Which is quite
Yeah.
ironical.
Yes, yes.
But yes, I was very, very lucky. The Dragon did me marvellously well.
Yes.
And and they, you know, I tried for Winchester,
Mm. but
didn't get in.
Right.
Well, I say didn't get in. I was trying for a scholarship,
Yes.
and not surprisingly didn't get. I was
What?
what they call 16th on roll,
Oh, yes, yeah.
and they only gave scholarships to 14.
14, so you're 2 off the
Yeah, I was
pace
2
there.
Anyway, I then went to Westminster
Yes.
for a scholarship exam,
Mhm.
and the comparison, I very arrogantly said to my uncle, it's easy as falling off a log.
Really, yes.
And it was, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like that now.
No.
But it did feel a bit like
Yeah.
that. The difference was quite extraordinary. And I was the top scholar of my year
Yes.
at Westminster.
Yes.
Couldn't get into Winchester. Gives you some idea of the difference.
And then on to Oxford, Christchurch.
Well, then into the Navy.
Oh, the Navy before. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
so,
no,
tell us, so what year was that you went into?
42.
The Navy? 42, yes.
Left school in 42.
Mhm.
The school evacuated, you know.
Yes.
Westminster
Yes.
went to the country to
Oh, I imagine.
Shropshire, Wiltshire. No.
Yes.
Where were we? Ludlow. Where's
Oh,
Ludlow?
Ludlow, yes.
Near Ludlow.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, that was, I enjoyed that. You know, it was a place called Whitbourne.
Oh, yes, yes.
Does that mean anything to you?
No, I'm afraid not. No. Maybe to Liz, but no.
No, it didn't.
And
It's just a tiny village.
yes.
And we took over Whitbourne Court,
Mhm.
which was the big manor house in the village,
Mm.
surrounded by a moat, believe it or not.
Yes. No escape.
No escape, exactly. But I enjoyed that. It was we did a lot of cycling.
Mm.
We cycled to school 3 times a week,
Yes.
and then they cycled to us 3 times a week.
Right. And you joined the Navy. Was that your choice, the Navy?
Well, I didn't really want to go into the army. I don't know why.
Mm.
Didn't attract me at all.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, I'll, you know, get there first
Mm.
by volunteering for the Navy.
Yes, yes.
And that was good, actually.
And tell me a bit about your service there.
Well, I was an ordinary seaman training,
Yes.
which I largely hated.
Mhm.
It was very rough, and there were a lot of very rough people.
Yes.
The swearing was unbelievable, and some of the cruelty was rather awful.
Yes.
Not to me, but to others. And, you know, there was one chap called Macbeth, of all things, permanently in trouble.
Yes.
Permanently in trouble. And he had to climb the mast and sit on the truck on top. And terribly dangerous.
Yes. Yeah.
Terribly dangerous. He thought nothing of it.
Yeah. So it was almost back to the Navy of the 19th century, that sort of...
Well, there was a feel of that.
yes,
actually.
yeah.
You're quite right.
Mm.
There was. Then I I was an ordinary seaman for 6 months, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And was worked as on East Coast convoys,
Yes.
Edinburgh to Sheerness.
Yes. Yes.
And well, actually, life as an ordinary seaman wasn't too bad. I was welcomed into the my mess by the what would he be, a petty officer or something, who held out his hand very warmly and shook, and he said, "You bastard." So it turned out to be one of the nicest greetings I've ever had.
You've had a lot worse since.
Well, I know. But that was quite an experience. I wasn't. Westminster wasn't a preparation for that at all.
And then afterwards,
I did 6 months at sea, as I say.
Yes.
And then I was called a white paper candidate.
Yes.
Which was what the people who were expected to go on to train as officers were called.
Yes.
Because there was some white paper which had set it all up.
Yes.
And that was at Lancing College.
Oh.
And since I'd been, Westminster was evacuated to Lancing early in the war.
Yes.
So I knew my way around.
Back at school.
Back at school,
Yes.
exactly. Extraordinary.
Yeah. And what branch of the Navy were you?
Well, I eventually trained as a navigator.
Yes.
I wanted above all to avoid being a gunner.
Yes.
That appalled me.
Yes.
So I volunteered to do the navigation course,
Yes.
which I found very, very interesting.
Yes.
Quite tough.
Yes.
You know, maths and all that.
Oh yes, yes. With the sextant out there.
Sextant out there, exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't do it now, but you know, I got quite good at it. A lot of maths involved.
Yes.
And then I was sent to sea as midshipman on the Atlantic. The Atlantic
The convoys.
Convoys, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. And
On what ship was that? HMS.
it was called a frigate.
A frigate. Yes.
It was built in Boston, and I was sent out to Boston to join it, and I became the navigator. So it was quite a big job for I don't know, I was only 20 or something.
Yes.
Absurd, really.
And you were escorting
We were
convoys.
escorting the convoys, exactly.
Yes.
And it was a fascinating job.
And then later on, you were on the D-Day landings, were you?
Yes, I was.
Yes.
Yeah, then I went and was commissioned as a midshipman.
Yes.
And eventually became a sub-lieutenant.
Yes.
And then the ship I was in, I went out to America to pick it up, called Dakins, and we brought it home. We were stationed in Sheerness to begin with. Then we moved round to Portsmouth, so as to be ready to escort the landings. And we arrived at Aramonge.
Yes.
We were about half a mile offshore, perhaps.
Yes.
I don't think any more. It was quite close.
Very close. Yes.
And what were they called again? The landing vessel.
The landing craft.
Landing craft. That's right.
Yes.
Landing
Yes.
craft. And we anchored, looking after them, as it were.
Yes.
And they all went past us ashore and went out, and we saw a lot of gunfire and so on.
Yeah.
I don't think it was very dangerous, but it might have been.
Well, so you're understating that.
Well, I didn't feel that we were terribly threatened. I think there was one shell which came relatively near, but it really wasn't. Didn't feel very.
And for your part in that action, you were recognised by the French government recently.
Yes, they took 71 years, but
That's a long time. But tell us about that.
Well, I don't know. They suddenly, Hollande apparently suddenly decided that people who'd taken part in the invasion, I rather cynically said they'd waited 70 years so as to have fewer people to honour.
Yes.
But it was lovely. We
After 71 years.
Yes. By the French consul in Bristol,
Yes.
who came over to Bath,
Yes.
and we were at the Russell Hotel or whatever it was,
Yes.
and we sat in. There was another man and me,
Yes.
much longer service than I did. He was in the army the whole war.
Yes.
Started in '39.
Yeah.
I didn't start till '42.
Yeah.
So anyway, this consul came, woman consul from Bristol.
Yes.
She came over and presented me with the medal, kissed me on both cheeks,
Oh.
or I kissed her on both. Both did both. So I did better than whoever it was.
Oh yes, yes. We were just talking about another veteran who was
Yes.
kissed on both cheeks by President Sarkozy.
Oh yes.
But you got a better deal,
I
obviously.
got a better
Yes.
deal. I
And
thought.
what is the medal called?
What is the medal
Is it
called?
the Légion d'honneur or Croix de Guerre?
Exactly.
Légion d'honneur.
Légion d'honneur.
Yeah, yeah. And it's in a fine box with RF, République Française, there. So you must be very proud of this.
Well, I am. I'm very surprised.
Oh, well deserved for all of you, because here in the local paper, in the Bath Chronicle, we can maybe look at this later, but there's an article about you,
That's
a picture
right,
of you
yes.
and your comrade here, honoured for their roles in freeing a grateful France. Yeah, so you must be very, very proud of this. Yes.
I was very surprised.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I got early release because I already had a place at Oxford.
Yes.
So they let me out early so as to, I came out in November of 45
Yes.
and started up at Oxford in January
Yes.
46.
Yes.
So I was very fortunate,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
A lot of people didn't get out till the following summer or more.
Yes. And you went to Christchurch
Went to Christchurch,
to read.
Mods and Greats.
Yes.
It was what they called a wartime on a Mons, I think it was.
Yes.
It's all, I mean, normally you do 4 terms
Mm-hmm.
for Mons, Greek and Latin,
Yes.
language, and
Yes.
so I only did 2 terms, just as well. I wasn't good enough to do more.
What was it like coming back to study, having been away in the Navy for 3 years? Was it a feeling of finding something again with pleasure, or was it a bit of a chore?
Certainly that.
It was that, yes.
A sense of freedom.
Yes.
You know, I found it difficult to believe that I could walk out of my room and walk around Oxford without being responsible to anyone.
Yes.
It was amazing.
And you did a second degree in Oxford too, didn't you? Or have I got that wrong?
No. Well, you have, in a sense.
Yes, sorry.
When I went back, I did grades.
Yes.
And there was a shortened form of grades,
Oh, I see.
which I thought I was doing, 5 terms or something. And in fact, I was persuaded to stay on for an extra 2 terms, I think it was.
Yes.
Certainly an extra term. To do the full course.
Yes.
Because someone foolishly said that I might get a first. Anyway, which I didn't. Not that it upset me all that much. I don't think I mean, you know, one hopes, doesn't one? A friend of my father's, who lived in Oxford, she was called Mary Glover. Her father was a very well-known man at Cambridge called T.R. Glover.
Yes.
And well, thanks to her, she was on the board of entirely new outfit, which was based in the middle of Windsor Great Park.
Yes.
It's all quite extraordinary. Through a extraordinary, I mean really extraordinary woman called Amy Buller.
Right.
Well, Amy Buller, she was extremely difficult, and she was very tough, but she had got the confidence of the king, who said, "Would you like Grace and Favour residence, Cumberland Lodge, to start your experimental residential college?"
Oh.
She said yes, and she invited, well, thanks to Mary Glover,
Yes.
I was invited to be the first resident tutor,
Yeah.
which was quite a job, really.
And in what sense was it experimental?
Well, the idea was to give non-residential students from non-residential universities an opportunity to experience something of what a residential university life would be like.
Yes.
And of course it was very minimal, it was fortnight, 3 weeks,
Yes.
a month if you were lucky. But we ran very good courses, discussions, we had speakers,
Yes.
a lot of discussion,
Yes.
so that it was teaching them, well, teachers sounds very superior, but you know, these students from London and Liverpool and so on
Yes.
didn't have a lot of opportunity for sitting around discussing
Yes.
with lecturers and professors. And this was a marvellous opportunity, and it was much appreciated, I must say.
And you'd have taken to that like a duck to water. You'd have
Well,
flourished in
I
that
suppose so, I
atmosphere.
don't know.
Yes. Yes.
I enjoyed it anyway,
Yes.
very much. It was quite a tough life in its way, because there was nothing. I mean, I began with absolutely nothing
Yes.
except a house and place to stay for people.
Yes.
So I had to recruit students from universities all over the place
Yes.
to come and take part in these courses.
Yes.
So I visited universities, London, Liverpool, Manchester, Southampton, you name it,
Yes.
to try and persuade students to come for a fortnight or 3 weeks. And it turned out really quite successfully. I enjoyed it very much indeed. This formidable Miss Buller,
Yes.
she was the warden, and an extraordinary woman. To survive Miss Buller was one of the greatest lessons of my life, I think. She was tough.
Yes.
An aunt of my wife's, of Mary's, who was a head teacher, whom I went to see, and I said, well, I think I'd like to be a teacher. Well, what do I do next? She said, well, I know someone called Eric James, who's the High Master of Manchester Grammar School. I think it'd be quite a good idea to see what he thinks. So about 10 days later I got a message saying that Eric James would like to interview me in Manchester. So I took the train to Manchester. It was all very unbelievable to me. And I had a 2-hour interview. I couldn't believe that either. I gave very few 2-hour interviews myself. How long did I interview you for?
Oh, I think it was
3/4 of a minute.
3/4 of a minute.
I think so. 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah, 3/4 of an
Yeah.
hour. Yes. Yes.
Anyway, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. You know, once I'd settled in, I thought, well, this is quite. I mean, he was a marvellous man. He was very interesting. So, you know, that was. I thought, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
And when I left, he shook me by the hand and he said, I'm not going to offer you the job at the moment. I think you should consult your wife. I don't think she's going to like Manchester. So I said, I don't think she'll have anything against Manchester.
Yes. Yes.
When Mary met me at Paddington, off the train.
Yes.
Marylebone, I suppose, or
Yes.
St Pancras or wherever.
Yeah.
With a telegram in her hand from him,
Yeah.
offering me the job.
Yes.
I really felt very fortunate.
Yes.
You know, you don't often get a job just
Like
out
that
of the
in a
blue.
plum school. And, yeah. Yes. Yes. And so you had how many years in?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah.
42 to no,
52,
52
52
to 59.
Yeah.
Just over 7 years.
Yes.
And I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marvellous school, of course.
Yes.
I mean, how fortunate. And I was given my form as form master
Yes.
was 3 beta,
Yes.
which is dim boys in the
Oh, yes.
3rd year.
Not the alpha class.
Not
there.
at all, no.
But not
3
the gamma
alpha,
either.
3 beta.
Yes.
But of course, I mean, I didn't know there was anything special. But compared with most other pupils
Oh,
in most other schools,
yes.
they were very good.
Yes.
Martin Woolacott was one of the most memorable ones.
Mm.
He was a bit of an artist and
Mm.
very clever.
And then after 7 years, happy years where you were learning your trade, this job in Edinburgh came up.
Anyway, yes, it did. I went to see Eric and said, "What do you think about my?" I tried for a headship in London,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very cross that I didn't even get an interview.
Yeah. Oh.
Said after what you call them, the recommendation,
Oh, your reference.
my reference.
Yes. Yes.
After the reference, I think it was very rude of them.
No, I didn't know Eric James, but I wish I did after this this imitation of
It
him.
was a wonderful.
But he was. But we're glad you didn't get the job in London.
Well, so was I in the end. Very glad.
Yes.
And then
So the job in Watson's came up, and
John
he
and I was
pushed you
only-
in that direction.
I was 35 or something.
Yeah.
My parents lived in Edinburgh,
Yes.
and I said to Eric, "Well, what do you think?" He said, "Have a go,
Never know.
have a go."
Yes.
And to my amazement, they appointed me. They've never made the same mistake again.
Oh yes, that's a terrible thing. And how did you find the school when you arrived? What did you think of it when you came there? And did you spend some time just getting used to it, or
I
did you
spent
have a
quite a
vision?
lot of time getting used to it.
Yeah.
And I spent quite a lot of that time, thinking about what I might do.
Yes.
It was a very good, but very conventional
Mm-hmm.
Scottish school,
Yes.
and had a long and excellent history.
Yes.
But it wasn't exactly exciting.
Yeah.
I felt there were things that it could be made more exciting.
Yes.
And that was why I sort of started to think out what one might do to vary it, to make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That led to projects, of course, which was
Yes.
that was Manchester Grammar School had what they called an annual trek,
Yes.
and led by one of the masters, and he recruited, I forget, 3 or 4 staff, and we went on trek. The Dolomites and French Alps,
Yes.
all sorts.
Mm.
Tremendous experience. Month, cooking and feeding ourselves.
Just with a small group of boys. Or
I think there were 40 of us.
40. Oh yes.
I think it was quite big,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
I think there were 5 masters, something like that. But it was a tremendous experience.
Yes. And that gave you the germ of what became projects.
Exactly. I thought, well, I didn't think Watson's was going to take to trekking in the Manchester Grammar School sense.
Yes.
they weren't going to give up part of the summer holiday.
Yes.
And then I thought, well, what else could we do? And I can't, oh yes, what was it started at Glenmore? They started an outdoor project.
Yes. Wasn't it for some of the less academic children
Yes,
to begin with?
it was.
With the likes of Pat Eadington, maybe, I think. And then you developed it into full-blown
Well,
project.
it existed as courses.
Yes.
So I took up a group
Mm.
with staff,
Yes.
and that quickly developed into projects.
Yes.
And we variegated and went to Mull and all these other places.
Yes.
So it became very much the annual thing. And I was, it was certainly very good for Watson's, very good for me, very good for the staff.
Very good for generations of pupils.
You went where?
My stamping grounds were Torridon mainly.
Torridon, yeah.
And also the Outer Hebrides. Yes. So I think I did 20 projects, and I just
Did you
loved them.
really?
But that's dwarfed by the contribution of some others like Maxie and so on, and Graham Gibb.
Yeah, I know, Maxie did great.
Yes.
How
yes.
is he?
I believe he's well. Yeah, we'll
Yes,
give
good.
you news afterwards. We saw him recently, and he looks younger than ever, fitter than ever. Yes. Yes. But one thing for sure is that projects have continued, have flourished, and despite one or two hiccups, maybe with getting staff all together,
That's right.
it still will continue, and it's appreciated by
I'm
generations of
so
kids.
pleased.
And Liz is in charge of a group looking at how to ensure that they. that
You go
continues.
back and look after a group every year.
Immediately after the amalgamation, you had May Nicol as your deputy.
Well, two of them.
Oh, yes.
I had Alec Western.
Oh, of course. Now speak to me about these two.
Well, Alec was a bit of a surprise to everyone, because when a man called John Sinclair ceased to be deputy, he was a very much old school, tough guy, mathematician, not very easy, but I managed to get on quite well with him. Anyway, John Sinclair left, and was that when I appointed Alec? Yeah, I thought so.
So what did you see in Alec? What were his qualities?
Oh, I mean, he was just outstanding schoolmaster.
Yes.
Anyway, I asked him and I said, Alec, I'd like you to be my deputy. He said, quite impossible.
Alec said quite
He said,
impossible.
quite impossible. And I said, why? He said, because to be a deputy, you've got to have a degree, and I don't have a degree. I said, I don't give a toss about a degree.
Good for you.
I want the person.
You saw the qualities there.
Oh, tremendous. He said, well, I don't think I can say yes unless I get some reassurance that this isn't a mad scheme. So I said, all right, give me 2 or 3 days and I'll get some reassurance. So I went straight to Bill Dixon. Did you ever know Bill?
Yes.
Who was head of chemistry, head of science,
Yes.
and who was, the wise old bird,
Yes.
marvellous man.
Yes.
And I said to Bill, as you know, we need a new deputy, and I've already offered it to you, and I know you don't want it, and I want to give it to Alec Weston. He said it's quite impossible because he hasn't got a degree. He said nonsense. So that was fine. That was the end of that.
And Alec was accepted by everybody.
He had no problems at all.
Yes.
He was marvellous, of course. Absolutely superb.
Yes.
Did you work under him?
No, I never did, and I never met him. But I've
You
heard
never
so
met
much.
him,
No.
That's really sad.
But what were her qualities, as seen from your
Well,
point of view as
she
principal?
was totally trusted by her colleagues.
Oh yes.
So that was a big, big thing. She was a brilliant teacher.
Yes.
She knew how to run a classroom and teach history successfully.
Yes.
She had a presence without being overpowering in any way. she was efficient, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
why do I look further?
Yeah.
She was marvellous.
Yeah. She was one of these people who, if she asked you to do something, you wanted to do it for her.
Precisely.
Yes. Yeah.
She was great.
Yes. So you had the support of these two outstanding deputies.
Absolutely.
And some outstanding other staff as well.
Well,
you
a
had,
lot of
I mean,
it. Well,
the likes of J.G. Scott, Donald MacDonald, and so
exactly.
on. Yes. And Roger, some of your legacy, if one could call it that. Hamilton College, the exchange with Hamilton, which is still going strong. I just spoke the other day to the young lad who's got it for this year. To tell us how that came about.
Well, it was actually just before my time.
Right.
There was a Watsonian in New York, and this was a great success. And after about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I said, this is absurd. We ought to be doing another way exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, Hamilton College, a liberal arts college,
Yes.
university style.
Yes.
So it wasn't a case of one of their people coming as a student, but we had him as a part-time teacher, and did he do a course or something? I think they did some study.
Certainly recently the Hamilton fellows who've come across have taught American studies, American history,
That's right.
politics,
That's
and then
what they
whatever their area of speciality, whether it was music or history or art.
They didn't do something outside the school.
No,
I don't think so.
no.
That was my invention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was right. But anyway, it quickly took on as a great success.
Oh yes.
And well, it's gone on.
And still flourishing.
Tremendous.
Yes. I mean, my own son, Sandy,
Oh yes,
went
Sandy
to,
did.
he
Of course
went
he
to
did.
Hamilton, and he loved the American experience so much that after coming back and studying here, he went to live there and become an American citizen. In fact.
Has he now?
Yes, it's a direct result of Hamilton. Yes. And another thing that you introduced, which was of great benefit to generations of pupils in developing their independent thinking, was the TGs, the tutorial groups, for the 6th form.
Well, it was a bit of a leap in the dark, to be honest. But I was very conscious that, well, Scottish pupils generally, and certainly quite a number at Watson's, were pretty inarticulate.
Yes.
And the Scottish style of teaching didn't leave a lot of opening for discussion,
Yes.
for their talking.
Discussion groups which did help pupils to become articulate and develop their own ideas and defend their ideas against others, which was very useful. Alas, they exist no more.
Is it not anymore?
No, because of the demands of the timetable. But there
I'm sorry to
there
hear
is
that.
the other system, which was the tutors, the personal
Oh,
tutors,
yes.
which different from tutorial groups, where each pupil chose their own tutor, which still exists. Tell us, why did you think that was a good idea?
Didn't I got an answer for that?
Yeah. But certainly that didn't exist before your time, and then you...
No, I invented that.
Yes.
I think it was the feeling still the same that the universities weren't very good at personal relationships.
Yes.
You know, you didn't have a lot of personal relationship with members of staff, did you?
At university, not... Well,
Some,
yes,
yes.
yes.
And I thought, well, to encourage a bit of that, to provide someone who would give advice,
Yes.
to provide someone who would write the university, what do you call it?
The references.
References,
Yes.
yes. and made the sixth form feel much more personal.
Yes. And certainly that has worked over the years, but Liz, you can reinforce that, and I know over the years that if a pupil chooses a particular member of staff, then that builds that relationship.
That's good.
And you
It's
feel
still
very-
going.
Still going, still going.
That's good.
And it was well looked after by Rodney Mallinson
Yeah, that
in
was
his
good.
time, yes.